A fresh political firestorm erupted across social media after tech entrepreneur Elon Musk posted a blunt assessment of the current political climate, arguing that what he described as extreme hatred and violence is a reaction to successful efforts to eliminate corruption and government waste. Musk further claimed that without Donald Trump, such reforms would be impossible, framing the former president as a necessary force behind systemic change. The statement quickly gained traction online, sparking intense debate, enthusiastic endorsements from supporters, and sharp criticism from opponents. Within minutes of the post appearing on X, the platform formerly known as Twitter, the message began trending. Supporters amplified it with hashtags calling for reform and fiscal accountability, while critics accused Musk of oversimplifying complex social tensions. Political commentators from across the ideological spectrum weighed in, turning what began as a single post into a broader conversation about power, influence, and the state of American governance. Musk's remarks appear to reflect a growing narrative among certain political and business leaders who argue that entrenched bureaucratic systems resist change and that backlash is evidence of disruption. According to this perspective, reform efforts targeting inefficiencies, regulatory structures, and alleged corruption inevitably provoke resistance from those benefiting from the status quo. In that context, Musk's framing suggests that opposition is not a sign of failure but proof of progress. The reference to Trump added another layer of controversy. Trump, who remains one of the most polarizing figures in modern American politics, has consistently portrayed himself as an outsider battling what he calls the deep state. Musk's assertion that reform would be impossible without Trump echoes themes that resonate strongly with the former president's base. For critics, however, the statement reinforced concerns about the merging of corporate power and partisan politics. Political analysts note that Musk's influence extends beyond traditional corporate leadership. As the head of major companies spanning electric vehicles, space exploration, artificial intelligence, and digital communications, his commentary often carries outsized weight. His acquisition and transformation of X into a platform emphasizing what he calls free speech absolutism has positioned him not only as a business magnate but as a key participant in political discourse. Supporters argue that Musk's willingness to speak candidly sets him apart from other executives who remain silent on contentious issues. They contend that corruption and bureaucratic waste have long plagued public institutions and that bold reform requires equally bold leadership. Some advocates point to government audits and oversight reports highlighting inefficiencies as evidence that structural change is overdue. Critics counter that attributing social unrest solely to anti-corruption efforts oversimplifies deeper economic, racial, and cultural tensions. They warn that framing political disagreement as proof of corruption risks delegitimizing dissent and undermining democratic norms. Civil rights advocates have also expressed concern about rhetoric that connects reform efforts with narratives of victimhood among powerful figures. The debate also highlights the evolving relationship between technology platforms and political mobilization. In previous election cycles, social media companies often faced criticism for moderating content deemed misleading or inflammatory. Under Musk's leadership, X has taken a different approach, scaling back certain moderation policies and emphasizing user-driven content visibility. That shift has transformed the platform into a central arena for political messaging, viral campaigns, and ideological clashes. Economic implications also loom large. Markets sometimes react to political volatility, and high-profile statements from influential figures can influence investor sentiment. While Musk's companies did not immediately show dramatic movement tied directly to the post, analysts caution that sustained political entanglement can create reputational risks. Balancing corporate leadership with political advocacy remains a delicate equation. Meanwhile, Trump allies welcomed Musk's comments, interpreting them as validation from one of the world's most prominent entrepreneurs. Some conservative commentators suggested the remarks signal a broader alignment between business innovators and populist political movements. Others framed it as evidence that anti-establishment efforts are gaining momentum heading into future electoral cycles. Opponents, however, argue that equating criticism with corruption avoidance deflects from legitimate policy disagreements. They emphasize that vibrant democracies depend on open debate and that disagreement does not inherently signal wrongdoing. Several lawmakers responded publicly, urging a more measured tone and cautioning against rhetoric that could further inflame divisions. The viral nature of the post underscores the power of concise, provocative messaging in the digital age. A few sentences were enough to trigger nationwide conversation, drawing millions of impressions and thousands of replies within hours. Analysts say this reflects a broader shift toward personality-driven political discourse, where influential individuals can shape narratives independently of traditional media channels. As the conversation continues to unfold, one thing is clear: Musk's statement has reignited debate about corruption, governance, and the role of powerful private citizens in political life. Whether viewed as a courageous truth-telling moment or a polarizing provocation, the post has once again demonstrated how a single message from a high-profile figure can dominate the news cycle. The broader question now facing observers is whether such rhetoric will translate into tangible political momentum or remain confined to online discourse. With public trust in institutions already strained, the intersection of technology leadership and political advocacy is likely to remain a defining feature of the modern era.